Hello, John Bloodworth Gentleman Crafter here again with another card layout, and we are up to number 40, and therefore we're a bit proud of being amazing, so the sentiment worked here. The papers that I'll be using come from the Wonderlust pad by First Edition. Lots of glorious patterns, effects and styles to choose from in this one. So I shall select a couple and then we will crack on. So the layout that I'll be using is this one here, nice and simple. And of course, as ever, if you would like to download that and print it for yourself with the measurements, you can from my blog. A link will be in the description below the video. I've chosen a few other bits and pieces to use in this video, but some of them might not actually get used. In fact, I think you probably guessed that one didn't even get used already. The paper I used was this one though, and it's lovely. I chose a circular die for the circle. I've already marked out the sentiment strip, and I thought about using this cover a card stamp from Impression Obsessions, just because I thought it worked well with the paper design. So, time to get cracking. Now, the first thing I did need to do was crop down a little bit of paper to do my stamping on, or sorry, card even. And it's going to cover the front of the card, so it'll be 6x4. I tried using a scrap there, but there wasn't enough to do a 6x4, so I grabbed a new sheet. Now, I was going to try and do an ombre effect, so graduating from a darker to a lighter tone. I mostly succeeded in getting orange ink on the yellow ink pad, but here you see me trying to take off some of that to give a graduated effect. And that kind of worked. I wasn't totally impressed. There's a lot of distressing going on. It looked okay, but I re-inked the stamp and then stamped the bottom half. And yeah, that's okay, but I didn't quite like the overlap. So in the end, I decided not to bother using it. That's how it goes when you're making cards, I guess. Just got to play around and see what works. For the sentiment, I just used the VersaFine ink pad to ink it up and stamp it out. Now, I actually measured wrong, or not measured wrong. The stamp that I'm using is slightly taller than the strip that I'd measured, so I ended up stamping it on the bottom half of that card. And it was a bit ropey in the impression, so I re-inked and did it again. I like leaving these little bits in just purely because sometimes when you've been making cards for a while, people think you're an expert at everything and that everything comes out perfect first time round. Sometimes it just doesn't. Now, for the patterned paper, I cropped it down so it'd fit through my mini die cutting machine, positioned the circle, and then taped the die in place and sent it through the die cutting machine. What I found though was that that circle just wasn't big enough to make the impact that I was hoping for. So I chose a bigger circle, and because it wouldn't fit through my mini die cutting machine, I chose a fresh sheet of that paper, selected where I was going to put the die, taped it down, and then took it over to my larger die cutting machine. And hey presto, there's my larger circle, which I think worked better by extending a bit further across the card. Wasn't the exact size that's in the layout, but that's fine. It's the overall impression that we were going for. I marked the edge and then cropped that with scissors, and it was out with the bookbinding glue as ever. Pleased to see a lot of you have been going for that based on my recommendations, and that you've been finding what I've said was true. It's fabulous for card making because it doesn't buckle your card. You need very little, and you get it in a bottle with a fine tip applicator, which makes it perfect for pretty much every job. just using my gridded ruler there to make sure that that sentiment was centralised, and bizarrely and somehow luckily I had managed to do that. Now, just using my newly orange yellow ink pad to put some ink around the edges and then blending it off with a sponge tool. A lot of people think that sometimes you need to actually apply the ink with the sponge tool, but you can actually blend it off with the sponge tool too. That's really not easy to say. Now, out with the foam pads, and possibly one too many for the job in hand, but you know what? Sometimes more is less, or no, what's the phrase? Oh, I don't know. You know what I mean. So, sticking it down on the card, and I kind of found myself being grateful that I hadn't used that stamped background because I liked the clean look to this. So I thought that rather than just over-embellish with some flower dyes and all that going on above the sentiment, I just wanted to maybe accent the card with a couple of quick gems. Gems can't be quick. Anyway, there we go. That's card number 40. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time. That's it for this time. If you've enjoyed this video, please remember to give it a thumbs up, and if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments section below. And for more from me in the future, please remember to subscribe to this channel. Thanks for watching.